So this is video number 3 of our workshop video series where we've been discussing 9 different points over the course of the other videos on designing, organizing, and working efficiently in a smaller shop. In this particular video, we're going to cover the compressed air system that I set up in my shop. We're going to talk about temperature, ventilation, and humidity controls. We're going to talk about lighting, electrical power and plumbing considerations, and then we're going to close out with wood storage and talk a little bit, summarize tool storage and kind of an overall summary. I'm going to take you over here though to the corner of the shop. Let's walk over there. All right, so years ago I installed some pipe into my shop through the foundation wall right up on the back side there. And I went underground, I don't know, probably about 16 inches out to my shed. And I did this because I wanted to put my compressor out in the shed and I just didn't want to hear the noise of it kicking on all the time. It was genius and brilliant while it worked. Until a few years later, a landscaper cut the pipe and patched it. It was never the same because it constantly leaked and constantly cycled. So I moved my compressor here into the shop and I got tired of hearing it. So I built this box right here and I lined the box with Roxul, Safe and Sound. And the Roxul deadens the noise by 50%. I will say that, if you're running continuously though, it'll get hot in there and the compressor will shut down. So, you kind of have to keep that in mind. So the air lines in the shop are copper and they're hard piped to the center of my shop where I have a coiled hose connection. And that's where I hook up all my nailers. The compressor, it connects to that hard piping through that flex hose, and it's pretty much, it's monitored or cleaned by a moisture sensor over here on this side of the shop in the corner. Hard piping air to your shop, it just eliminates the hose, trip hazards, and ensures that you always have air when you want, because I just leave it on. I use compressed air for everything: nails, brads, pins, staples, fastening, cleaning dust and dirt off of parts, you name it. So temperature and humidity in your workshop are important. To heat my shop, I installed a permanently mounted 7 kilowatt King brand. It's a high capacity electric space heater. It's got a 25,600 BTU rating. I mounted it here in the rear of the shop near my bulkhead door because this was the cold spot of the shop. And the heater faces downrange and it does a really great job at bringing the temperature up on cold days. Now I also, right around the same time, added rim joist insulation all the way around and this insulated door to the bulkhead last year during COVID. I had a storm door there, but this was way better. The rim joist insulation and this door raised the temperature in my shop 15 degrees without even the heat turning on yet, which is a really comfortable, somewhere it hovers around, 52 or 53 in the colder days. Look, it was a small cost to do, but the comfort was worth it. It was well worth the results. So I'm glad I put that door in, but I still like to turn the heat up sometimes and work in a t-shirt. Let's talk a little bit about controlling humidity and keeping rust off of your tools. It's so much easier to protect your tools from rust than it is to deal with the consequences of having rusty tools. The 3 main components to protecting your shop tools from rust are basically control the humidity in your shop. Don't get your tabletops wet. Get your tools wet. So putting something that's got ice or a cold drink on your tabletop, don't do that. Apply a protective coating on a regular basis to your tabletops. That's important. Having a basement workshop like I do here in the Northeast means you got to deal with humidity. Most of these basements, they're not heated, they're not cooled, they're not controlled, and humidity can wreak havoc on a shop tool surface or hand tools in general. Finding light rust on hand tools, table saw tops, bandsaw, drill press tables, not uncommon. To deal with that and those shop issues, I purchased a really good dehumidifier, and it's in the older section of my shop over here, and it drains directly into my utility sink. That dehumidifier is always turned on, even in the winter. It doesn't really kick on, but it's always on. Another area that dramatically improved my shop humidity was to install like a French drain along the bulkhead door outside, and the drain connects to a very deep dry well below my frost line. That keeps the drain open year round, even when the ground's frozen and I get water coming down the hill in cascades. Prior to this, I would sometimes get some water coming down the stairs and seeping in. I get a puddle. So that's how I keep the water out of the shop. I also treat all of my metal surface tops with either Bow Shield T9 spray, which I love, just don't have any right now, or Butcher's Paste Wax. This is a finishing wax, but I prefer Butcher's or California Wax. And the wax does a much better job at staying on the tabletops longer because it's thicker, it lasts better. But there's all kinds of products you can use, but do something with that. What I usually do is I use about 220 or even higher sandpaper or a mesh paper, and I lightly clean the tabletop. So that takes out, you know, some surface rust. It might take out some glue or anything else that's on the tabletop. Cleans it up. I'll wipe it down. Sometimes I use a denatured alcohol to wipe it down, and then I apply the wax or the T9 spray. And I've got to tell you, I do the rails. I do everything with it. I do my bandsaw, my drill press, my shaper. It does a great job at keeping these tabletops nice and clean and shiny, and that's the way you want it. Let's talk a little bit about lighting, power, and plumbing considerations. It's important, I think, that you spend the money and properly wire your shop, and that means that you're never relying on extension cords to power a tool, or you want dedicated 20 amp circuits for all of your tools, for every tool if you can. Other examples might be like you put a floor outlet in for your table saw so you don't have to trip over the cord, or plenty of wall outlets and maybe 2 or 3 on a circuit and break them up into circuits. So you're not tripping stuff and running to the breaker all the time. My shop has many dedicated electrical circuits dedicated to powering it. There's 20 up here, 28 there, there's 2 20s over there, all dedicated 20s. Another one over here. And I can plug and roll my tools around and run tools at the same time, which is great. A while back, I changed all my fluorescent tube lights to LED lights. Way better light, way less energy. I also had to wire my dust collectors for 230, 240 volts. My heater, which takes up, you know, quite a big thing. I had to add this box to my shop to power the shop. I had to bring a big cable, and I forget how much I brought in, 60 or 100. And not everything in here runs at the same time, but you do have to try to think about how you're going to power your shop. So I forgot to mention lighting. Lighting's pretty important in the shop. A few years back, I swapped out all of my fluorescent tubes for an LED fixture. 4-foot fixtures, LED fixtures. I increased the lighting. I put them in different specific locations. For example, over the table saw and the router saw, over my 2 assembly tables, over the miter saw table, one here over the drill press area. The LED is more efficient. It's better lighting. Just going to save me more money on energy costs. I have some spotlights, like there's a spotlight here and a few other lights around the shop as well. And they're left over from the old days. I never got rid of them. They're good, you know, I clamp them on and shine them on different things. And I've got a couple of lights for video and photography stuff. But for the most part, the fluorescent lights, it's all you need for your shop. On the other end, or the other side of my miter saw table, in the old section of the house, which is circa 1863, this is 1994, I put in a slop sink, a utility sink, and it's been great for hand washing, cleaning things, cleaning paintbrushes, and that's where the dehumidifier drains into as well. You know, if I had the space, I would have put in a small bathroom, maybe a toilet urinal or something like that, small little shower, but it's not worth it. It wasn't worth it for me. I would have had to pump it up. If you have the space, then you can do it. But for me, my recommendation is if you can fit a utility sink into your shop, it's well worth it. So let's talk about wood storage. I've gone through many different iterations of wood storage, from piles on the floor leaning against things to a rolling cart, which was cool, to what I have now. Currently, I have this small bin behind me with dividers for some sheet stock, some boards, and I have some wall racks high up over the doorway here. Ceiling height is an issue with full-size sheet stock, so I could just fit an 8-foot board, but I'd rather store 4x8 sheets out in my shed. It's just too big and it sticks out too far into the room. So I use the outside shed for large sheet stock and heavy stuff. This ceiling rack, though, is pretty cool, and I use it to store some older boards and roughs on things that I have. There's a section in the old shop as well as the shed that have kind of racks hanging from the rafters, where I'll store long lengths of stock, leftover things from projects, moldings, smaller things that I don't often build things out of. This is more like trim and boxes and stuff. But this is probably my main go-to pile right here, this and this stack above my head. I want to ask you a question. Are you organized, or do you want to be organized, have an efficient, well-flowing shop? If the answer is yes, then I challenge you to think about what your time sinks are. And if you're saying, what's a time sink? Well, time sink is how many times do you search for a tool? And when you found that tool, was the accessory you needed to use that tool with it? Or did you have to go searching through a milk crate or unorganized drawers? Do you have to search for that bit, that blade, the accessory, and all over the shop to use it? How do you store your parts and fasteners? Do you know where your screws and your washers and things are? Do you store task-specific parts, tools, and accessories together, like the nail gun and the nails, or the drills and the drill bits, and stuff like that? Where are your time sinks? When it comes to tool storage, setup, and cleanup, think about that. The goal is to have a more productive time on task, less time searching for stuff. That's time saved is money earned, or just more time, right? So guys, if you enjoyed this 3-part video series, and I hope you did, please give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell in the corner right there, because that lets you know when we publish a video. It also helps our rankings, and we do appreciate your support. So also leave a comment. I love reading your comments, and I try to answer as many as I can. I'm Rob Roblad. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.